This is the first time I've done an unboxing in a while. Pretty excited. Let's get started. Packing slip. All right, let's open up these. Ooh, upside down. Let's take a look. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the SABO Deadlift Pro. In 11 years of lifting, I've never felt the need to purchase a deadlift specific shoe. I've always just deadlifted in my sock feet. But now that I'm getting a little bit more seriously into powerlifting, and I have my first powerlifting meet coming up, you can't just deadlift in your sock feet, so I needed to get a deadlift slipper or a deadlift shoe or something. And personally, I'm of the opinion of buy once, cry once, so just buy something good to start with, and in that way it'll last you a long time and you don't waste a bunch of money by getting something just to get by and then end up repurchasing the same thing over and over because it wore out because you didn't buy something good. So we're going with the SABO Deadlift Pros. I'm going to use these over the course of the next couple weeks, and then I will be back with the second half of the video to give you my review. We're back. I've had a chance to use these for a few weeks now. I've had a chance to use these in a competition, and overall, I'm very happy with these shoes. Now, there are some pros and there are some cons as well, so let's go ahead and get into that. But before we get into the video, hi, my name is Ryan Treadaway, founder of TreadawayTraining.com, where we turn skinny guys into jacked men. If you want more information on body transforming training and nutrition topics every Sunday, consider subscribing. First off, let's talk about the most important aspect of any lifting shoe, which is the heel. Now, with deadlifts, you don't want to have an elevated heel because if you increase the elevation of your heel, there's a greater range of motion. You have to travel a greater distance to get the bar from the starting position up to the top position, which makes the lift harder, which decreases the amount of weight that you can lift. And you obviously don't want that when it comes to a powerlifting competition. So you're gonna want as small of a heel as possible. When it comes to the SABO Deadlift Pro, the way the outsole is designed, the heel of the shoe looks a lot thicker on the outside than it actually is on the inside. With the shoe, it's almost as if there's nothing between your foot and the floor at all. In fact, if I poke my finger through the sole of the shoe, you can probably, if you look closely, actually see my finger poking through. And if I poke my finger right there, I can actually feel my finger poking through from the other side. It feels very similar to if I'm just deadlifting in my sock feet, which is what I've done for the past 11 years. The heel also flares out just a little bit to the sides to provide extra balance. Personally, I didn't feel a lot of difference when deadlifting because I've never had an issue with balance when deadlifting. But when wearing these shoes and leaning side to side, I could tell a little bit of a difference in balance. When it comes to the midfoot strap, rather than being completely flush with the top of the shoe, it's actually at a little bit of an angle so that instead of just pulling down on your foot, it's actually pulling down and back on your foot. This is so if you're pulling sumo, it prevents your feet from sliding forward. This is also where one of the cons comes into play, in my opinion. I feel like the midfoot strap is slightly too long. It doesn't drag the ground, but would touch the ground if it were pointed down versus hanging off to the side. And the top strap is purely decorative. There's elastic on the inside of the strap, so you can't actually tighten it down enough to use it for additional support. This isn't an issue though, because you can simply lace the shoes up nice and tight, so you're not actually missing anything by not being able to crank that strap down. One quick note that I did want to mention before moving on to the final verdict is that these shoes do come in European sizes only. There is a simple, easy to use chart on Max Barbell's website that I use to convert my US size to a European size with no issue whatsoever, so it's not a big deal, just something to be aware of. Now for the most important part of any review, would I recommend you purchase the SABO Deadlift Pro? I actually have 3 different answers on whether or not you should purchase these shoes because I feel like the answer is conditional. if you lift conventional and you don't compete, then you really don't have a need for these shoes or any deadlift shoes. You can just lift in your sock feet. The caveat to that being, if you lift on a hardwood deadlift platform, then I would not recommend you to lift in your sock feet. And you could purchase this shoe, but you could also purchase a cheaper shoe. That will work just as fine. Scenario 2, if you lift conventional but you do compete, then you're gonna need some type of deadlift shoe. You don't need anything that's super fancy. If you're deadlifting conventional, you can get away with any cheap deadlift shoe. However, I am always of the opinion of buy once, cry once. So get a really high quality shoe to start with so that it's gonna last you a lifetime versus having to just replace shoes over time because you got a cheap pair and they wore out. And the third and final scenario, if you pull sumo, I would recommend you to purchase these shoes whether you compete or not. If you want to check out my 5-year Adidas AdiPower squat shoe review, you can click here. If you want to check out my product review playlist, you can click here. As always, God bless you and your family, and we'll see you next week. When it comes to the SABO Deadlift Pro, the way the outsole is designed, there always has to be one line that I mess up at least 73 times.